This is Daniel, and this is Shifting Perspectives, and all part of Self Mastery Soup. Today, I'm really excited about talking about rites of passage and also a little bit about Vision Quest and what that is and what it entails and why to do it and that kind of thing. Um, when I was a kid, when I was 12 years old, my father was killed in a car accident, and I felt like that was the prime time to be taught certain things, to be taught about how to protect yourself and to how to approach girls and how to become more confident and how to fix a flat tire and all those things. And I sort of went out there in the world just trying to do the best that I could. And it seemed like that was happening for a long, long time. It just me just trying to do the best that I could. And what I found lately is, well, over the years, is that for a lot of men, we're lost. And it's a frustrating place to be in, is that you don't quite know why you're here, what you should be doing. Should you be following what the masses are telling you to do? And what I ended up doing is kind of going the opposite way. I felt like, God, if they're telling me to be this way and I can see the kind of unhealthiness about it, I'm going to go this way. And I started to go more into my feminine energy, just so I could be more peaceful and loving like my father was. So my father had a really good balance of that masculine and the feminine, but I was really attracted to that. Let's just be a nice person. We'll stick with that, and then at least I could run with that, and that'll feel good. But for a long time, I kind of pushed down this idea of the divine masculine. And there are certain things that can happen in a boy's life that can become a rite of passage. Let me read you what someone says the rite of passage is. A rite of passage is a ceremony or a ritual of the passage which occurs when an individual leaves one group to enter another. It involves a significant change of status in society. So this is not just for men, but also women or girls. And I looked at all the different rites of passage around the world, and it's pretty crazy. Here's some rites of passage. I'm not going to go into the details because it's pretty intense and crazy. One of them is land diving, like bungee jumping without the bungee, without the, it's just a rope. So you just jump towards the ground, and you kind of, you show that you're a man by just doing this thing that you could kill yourself. And some people actually die, and some people actually, get injured, but it's all part of it. And the other one is circumcision and something called sub-incision. And sub-incision, without going into the details, after a boy gets this done to him, he needs to pee sitting down. So another one is cow jumping. Another one that was, I think, in the to be a gladiator, you had to kill, people, slaves. And then there's another one that's in South America, this bullet ant glove that you stick your hand for 10 minutes into this glove made of bullet ants, which are the most powerful, painful ant on the planet as far as their sting. And it lasts for 24 hours. And not only that, but they have to do it like 20 times over their life. Another one is Mandan hook hanging. You've seen this in A Man Called Horse, but it's much more intense than what the Man Called Horse movie portrays. But it's basically sticking shafts into your skin, into the muscle, and having you hang from that. And then there's more to it. And there's just more, but I just want to explain that these things are so, even though they're so crazy and intense, and we've, hopefully we've evolved beyond a lot of these things, that there are other ways to move into this different part of society through this rite of passage. But I just think about these things, that some of the things that men and boys and girls and women have gone through as a rite of passage, sometimes it's war, sometimes it's combat, sometimes, like for me, when I was in the Navy, they have this thing called the shellback initiation. And if you're a shellback, then you've gone through this initiation once you cross the equator. So every time all these ships are crossing the equator, they're gearing up for these couple day long initiation. And there's all kinds of goofy things going. Some, you know, you got to like um, suck the cherry out of the fattest guy's belly button and who's covered in grease. You got to be all, they take all the crap from the like the previous meals and all the trash, and they all mix it together, and you got to swim through the stuff, and you're just covered in it, and you're smelly and stinky, and you get spanked and hit and bruised and cut, you know, all these things, and you get a little card that says, you know, I'm a shellback. So there's all these different ways to kind of become, yep, I've done that. I've done that, and now I'm in this other group. But what that also does is it kind of says, all right, I've been through that. If I can go through that, then I can go through so much. Like, if you ever heard of somebody that's been in combat for a long time and they have what's called the 1,000-yard stare, that's someone that you know has been through the shit. You know, they've killed, they've been injured, they've eaten bugs and snakes, and you know, they've gone through the whole thing. But what it caused them to realize is that, hey, you can throw anything at me and I can survive. And there's so many stories about people that have gone through the whole thing. That's why I think I like watching those survival shows, where I think one's called I Can't Believe I Survived or something, or Shouldn't Have Survived. That when someone goes through something like that, there is trauma there, but there's also this benefit of knowing that, wow, now if I need to move forward in like a job interview, I can do a job interview. If I need to move forward and tell someone my deepest feelings, maybe I could do that because I've been through some really harrowing, you know, life-threatening situations. So if we take that all the way, if we take that and can just kind of soften it down to our own time right now, where we're at, where most of us are in a very intense energy and data society, where we're on our phones, our computers, everything's, you know, everything right now, and we're kind of pushed right into getting jobs and relationship and all that. But there's not really, for a lot of us, there's not really, you've stopped being a child, now you're a man or now you're a woman. There's no real clear delineation from that. And so for what people are saying is that your childhood kind of lasts longer and longer and longer. And that's why for a lot of people, and I guess I'm just focused on men right now, is that for a lot of men, they're lost because they've never really had that guidance, never really said, okay, hey, Bob, you're done. Like, Bobby, you're done. Now you're Bob. You know, Danny, you're done being Danny. Now you're Daniel. So now's the time. Like, this is what you're responsible for. This is who you are. You know, you're completely prepared for society because you've gone through this training, you've gone through this thing, and you can meet the world. So if you haven't had that, it's just without that direct experience, you can kind of go out into the world and still be hanging on to your mother's guidance and what your father thinks about you and what the world thinks about you. And it's a very unsettling place to be. So here's Rite of Passage. These days, rites of passage, they're not really like what they used to be for indigenous people. It's not a week or 2 week long thing because we live a different life now. For us to be away from our cell phone or from food for a day or two is a hardship. So it's just been changed to reflect our current society. So what I do with people is I take them out for 2.5, maybe 3 days without any food, but with lots of water. We go out to the desert, we go out, I put them in a cave, just like I did, and I leave them there in the cave. And if there's any processing and healing from emotional trauma, then we go through all that in the cave. And, it's hot. All you have is water. I don't even allow people to bring a book because it's not really like, you're not here to go meditate and be in peace at where you're at. It's more like There needs to be some kind of a physical endurance, physical, maybe even some pain a little bit, so that says that I went through this. So it's not just a gentle retreating from society. It's more of a let's go through something, and you're going to go through more of it than I am. But at the end of it, you're going to be a changed person, and now you fit into this other group of people that have gone through some rite of passage, and you've kind of had a clear distinction of releasing childhood and coming into manhood. So, and I feel like, God, man, if we had more of our leaders and people that are, kind of in charge in government, wow, I mean, how many people have gone through any kind of rite of passage there? And you can kind of tell the people that have been through some kind of rite of passage that they kind of walk differently, they talk differently, they kind of they present themselves in a different way, and you can tell that there's something different about them. I was thinking about the rite of passages that I've gone through in my life and what may qualify as a rite of passage. And probably one is being born is probably one. And then my father dying and me going into trying to just find myself through getting in trouble and doing the wrong things, and drugs and alcohol, and just being being coerced into doing silly, stupid things, getting into fights, fighting people, getting punched. Those things are all kind of rite of passages. I'm not promoting it. It's just, what tends to happen. Shoplifting, getting busted for that. That's kind of a rite of passage, I guess. And then I joined the Navy, and, boot camp, that's a rite of passage. You're being yelled at, and you're being discriminated, and you're being shamed, and you're marching all day, and you're hot in the hot sun, and you're being told to do things that don't make any sense, but you have to do it anyway. And you're being thrown into a pool with with just your pants to help you float, and you've got to figure out how to float by making your pants a flotation device, all these different things. And then I was part of the rifle drill team, where I was flipping the rifles with the bayonets and behind my back and all this stuff. And that was also a rite of passage. I went to Africa. I went to different countries. I've done my own vision quest, where I've gone out into the desert a couple of times and just been out there with just water and no food. So there's all these different things that kind of say, okay, I've done this. Oh, I know another thing I've done. I bicycled 2,000 miles by myself down the Pacific coast with just a trailer with my tent, and just eating raw, and with no cooking utensils. So just every day bicycling 50, 60 miles. All those things kind of say, okay, I'm part of the group of people that have done a long distance bicycle journey just by myself. That kind of sets you as in a different group of people that have done that. It doesn't make you a better person. It's just, okay, yes, I've done that. I know what that feels like. And when you know what that feels like to be on your own, be in charge of your own survival, I think that was the biggest thing for me, is being in charge of my own survival. Like, I think that's the thing that really gets soft in us, is the ability to survive, the ability to take care of ourselves, the ability to go get water. I know some of this stuff sounds silly, but God, if you were put out there and said, go get your own food, and here's no money, no money, and go get your own food, and here's a cup, go get water. It's much less threatening than it used to be, but still there are certain elements of being in the world that a lot of things are so simple to get, electricity and fresh water and things like that. But if we had to live in a different way, like imagine yourself as homeless, that is sort of a rite of passage too, that you'd have to take care of yourself. You'd have to, like, no one or hardly anyone probably is going to take care of you. You've got to fend for yourself all the time. People are trying to take things from you. You've got to defend yourself. All those things are what we're not really used to these days, or most of us. So I just think about those things, and how little it takes for us to become threatened. So in this sense, the way that I do Rite of Passage and the way that it was done for me is much less than it used to, than you could consider what a Rite of Passage was, or maybe still is in some countries. But at least being out on your own in a cave in the heat, where you're struggling with the heat, you don't have any food, you're getting hungry, you might even be a little stressed out, you don't have your phone, you start getting worried, fear starts coming up, and then you're left with yourself. And that's one of the big things, is being left with yourself. But when you can be left with yourself and you have someone to help facilitate that and help to integrate what comes up with that, wow, some great healing comes from that. And I remember, when I had done my recent Rite of Passage with Kurt, things just come up. You're left there by yourself out in the middle of nowhere, and ideas come up, and you start considering your emotions and considering, like for me, I would start to consider how I judged everyone. And so that wouldn't have come up if I was distracting myself in the normal ways that we normally do. So being in that kind of place allows you not to be distracted and allow those things to come up. So the benefit of all this, again, is just to kind of break the ongoing patterns, sort of get off the merry-go-round for just a little bit, and know that I'm going to be okay, but I'm going to completely shift my normal life patterns. And when you shift your patterns, this is something that the Toltecs used to say, is that when you want to shift something in your life, just change the way that you do things. Like maybe you would take a shower and then you would start your breakfast and then you would watch the news. Well, maybe you mix that up a little bit and not watch the news, or take a shower last or something, so that you shift the energy. And part of that's what Rite of Passage does too, is it kind of breaks the normal thing. That's why also life-threatening illness and accidents also can be a Rite of Passage, that it can stop your normal routine into something. Okay, I've been living an unhealthy, out of balance life. Now let's switch this up through something that's really threatening, and something has to change. So Rite of Passage is more like a planned traumatic event, if you will. So highly recommended. So I'm about ready to go out there in about half an hour or so for a couple of days with a man named Jordan. And Jordan is really ripe for something like this. He is desiring to get more into the feeling of being able to make decisions and be able to move forward, and drop into that real firm knowing of confidence and less stress and anxiety and worry. So I'm really excited about this. Of course, he's going to be, with me in the cave. I'm going to be in the cave with him a little bit, but he's going to be there by himself at night. So I'm sure it's going to be great. And just send out your prayers, and your blessings would be most appreciated. I'd love to hear any stories about your own Rite of Passage that you've had in your life. So send me an email at danielposney@gmail.com, and I'd love to hear about how you've gone through your own. Thank you so much. I love you, bless you, and have a wonderful day.